Hi, I'm Cathy, and this is Lunar Bird Book Club. Hello, so this is my March reading journal. Today is the 5th of March, and I am in the car once again waiting for Orla. And look, actual sunshine. Last month when I filmed this vlog, a clip of me in the car at this spot was very dark and murky. And today it's bright because it's March and the sunshine has returned. So I have a couple of updates for you. First of all, I finished The Two Towers and it was wonderful. I'm no longer able to be an objective reader of Lord of the Rings. I just read these chapters and I'm so happy. I'm just glad to be in Middle-earth. I'm glad to be with the Fellowship, to be in the company of these people. I just have a great time. So I've really enjoyed reading The Two Towers. And today I am starting Brandon Sanderson's Words of Radiance. I did see another booktuber talking about this book and said that it's like one of the best books he's ever read, like full stop. So I'm excited to get into this. I've just started, like I'm only a few pages in. Oh, and I also want to show you my bookmark that I'm using for this book because it's the cutest thing ever and I made it. This was like a cross-stitch set that I picked up in Scotland last October. I went with my family to visit friends, and whilst we were there we went to a nature reserve where they had red squirrels, and so to remember that day I picked up this little kit where you get to cross stitch your own bookmark, and it's taken me ages because I kept stopping for breaks, but I finished it and it's just the cutest thing ever and I really enjoyed making it and I want more of this in my life. So I'm already eyeing up more bookmark cross stitch kits for me to do in the future, because imagine if I had a whole selection of bookmarks with different cute animals and birds and plants on, and then I could have a bookmark to match every book I read in the future and would be happy forever. Oh, and I'm also listening to Cloud Atlas still. I've got about an hour and a half left of that and I'm really enjoying that as an audiobook. Yeah, that's been fantastic. I'll talk more about that when I actually finish it. And one last thing, this Saturday, the 10th of March, I am setting it aside for a reading recharge day, which I mentioned in February's diary. I've told my family we have no other commitments, so I'm planning a day of nice, relaxing activities punctuated by lots of reading time. So chances are the next time I'm on camera, it'll be to start my reading recharge day on Saturday, and I'm already looking forward to it. What day is it today, Orla?
It's World Book Day!
It's World Book Day, and Orla's come on, just help me with a little challenge, because aside from reading, we realised that we needed to do some other nice things too on a recharge day. So I've got some options on here, and Orla's going to pick some things for us. So I know it doesn't show great on the camera, but the first row and the first decision you have to make, Orla, is what should we do for a nice breakfast?
Pastries, pancakes, or full English breakfast.
Yeah.
I feel like we do pancakes a lot, so I don't think I'm going to do that one.
Okay, you don't choose pancakes. That's now between pastries, which we'd probably like do at home, or a full English, for which we'd go to Morrison's, because Morrison's does the best full English breakfast near us.
I don't really feel in the mood for going out, so I think I'm going to go with pastries.
Pastries! Okay. Okay, good choice.
Put clap emojis in the comments.
Clap emojis in the comments for pastries. Okay, the next thing is we need to do something outside. So the options are feed the ducks, gardening, or a river walk. Which would you like to do?
I don't really feel in the mood for a walk.
Okay, no walking.
I think we haven't fed the ducks in a while and I don't really like gardening that much. So
Okay.
Fly off the table.
Okay, well, your last choice, baking in the afternoon. Should we bake a cake? Should we bake biscuits? Or should we bake muffins?
Let's break muffins.
Break muffins. What are you going to pick?
Okay. Some muffins I don't really like, so off the table. Well, it didn't really go off the table, but it's fine. Cake or biscuits? Sometimes I don't really like cake, so I'm just gonna, wow. Okay, so I think I'm going with biscuits.
Okay, perfect. So our timetable for my reading recharge day will be I have pastries for breakfast. Then in the morning at some point we'll go and feed the ducks and the squirrels. And then in the afternoon we'll make some biscuits.
Yeah.
And in between those things, I'm going to just chill out and do a lot of reading.
And I'm just going to chill out and be crazy.
You're going to chill out and be
Like
crazy?
go...
Sounds like a plan. Thanks, Orla. It is Saturday the 9th of March and I'm having my long-awaited reading recharge day. It has already started pretty nice. I read in bed this morning and Comet came and had cuddles and that was lovely. And then we've had some croissants for breakfast. I've read some more. So it's all very nice, all very calm. I just wanted to jump on and say that I finished the audiobook of Cloud Atlas this week and I feel like I just don't know what to do with my life anymore because I've been listening to Cloud Atlas for about 2 months and it was amazing. If you've not seen the film or read the book, Cloud Atlas is made of almost like 6 novellas that intertwine with one another and they range in location and time setting. So like I think it starts in like the 1800s and ends in like a post-apocalyptic future. And each novella is very strong in its own. There are some I preferred more than others, but the way they weave together and the message and the theming is really beautiful and powerful. And the writing was just amazing throughout. If I'd been reading it, I'm sure I would have underlined lots of lines in the book, but listening to it was a really good experience too. A lot of it is about freedom and choices and doing what you believe is right, even if you can't see it making a difference. I can't put into words what that book has meant to me, but I have really enjoyed it, and I'm really grateful to have read it. So the next book I'm listening to is Atonement, and I'm listening to that because it was on my poster of a top 100 books, so it's part of that challenge that I'm doing. And I was a bit unsure about whether or not to read Atonement because I know that it's a romance and I know it's got tragedy in, and I don't really read a lot of romance and I really don't like tragic endings, so I've gone into this with some hesitation, but I'm about an hour into the audiobook now and so far I'm really enjoying it. The writing is superb. It's got a tension in there that isn't quite accounted for yet. And it's set in the 1930s in a beautiful manor house, which, you know, I love that time period and I love fancy posh houses, so there's a lot that I'm enjoying so far and I'm interested to see where it's going to go. But today my main reading focus is Words of Radiance. I'm planning to spend a big proportion of today reading this book. This is the second book of the Stormlight Archive and I'm already getting some of my wish fulfillment. So what I really had hoped for and what had intrigued me a lot reading the first book was learning more about the Pashendi. I think there was something going on there that they were more intelligent and more organised than what first appears. And then in this book we have some chapters from Pashendi points of views and I've loved that. I've had such a good time reading those chapters and I'm excited to read more of them. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this book. I find it really relaxing and really fun, and this is what I'm going to spend most of today on.
Is that like I keep on saying like
It's a lot of butter. Are you ready? Can you manage it?
Yeah.
Do you use a spoon? Hey!
It just plopped.
Okay,
What
and
to
then
put it to?
turn it like that.
Oh, so the one.
About to one. One chocolate and then bowl of dough and one vanilla.
We were making a giant mess.
Okay, it's now 9:15. I've just put Orla to bed and we realised that we had one bottle left of mulled wine from Christmas that we just never got to. And it's been a particularly wet and blustery day today. So we thought, why not? So we've got the mulled wine going in the slow cooker. But it's been a wonderful reading recharge day. I've been so enjoying Words of Radiance. So yeah, so I think that's me. I'm off to get comfy and cosy. I'll be falling asleep very soon, so cheers! Back in the car again. I finished Words of Radiance. I enjoyed this and I do want to continue reading the series, but I have a little quibble in that I was loving it, and then I just felt like the last 100 pages of the book, a little bit tedious. Just, I was expecting the book to have like a dramatic finale and like the tensions to build, the stakes to rise, and no. It just seemed to, I don't know, circle the wagons a bit. So that confused me a little bit until I realised that this book is actually called Words of Radiance Part 1, and there's a Part 2. I don't think I've ever encountered that in a book series before. So this is one book in 2 parts that's part of a wider series. So I'm assuming Words of Radiance Part 2 will finish off that, and maybe that'll be my dramatic book. Are you allowed to do this? Are you allowed to just split a book randomly down the middle and just say, yeah, it's part 1, part 2? I mean, we've been talking about Lord of the Rings, and I get that that's what happens with Lord of the Rings, but yeah, I'm not sure if I'm on board with this as a known thing. I felt like my book fizzled out here. So, but is this not really a full book? Is this just part 1 of a book? Do I need the second part before I can say I've read Words of Radiance? It's like a series within a series. Are we allowed to do this? So I enjoyed the book overall, but it fizzled out at the end. That isn't an end, and maybe that's why it fizzled out. I don't know. I feel a little bit shortchanged, a little bit cheated, but I still want to read on. But anyhow, I finished it for now. So I have picked up today The Ninth Girl. So this is a book for my book club that we're reading, and it's a crime novel. I've just read the first chapter. It feels very much like a crime novel. A lady has been found murdered on New Year's Eve because her body fell out of the back of a trunk in a traffic accident. And this woman is the 9th unidentified woman to have been killed that year, and her body left abandoned, and I assume we're going to follow the investigations into these murders. And I have no idea where it's going to lead, but I'm looking forward to reading it. I quite enjoy a good crime book, and that's where we're up to. Hello, back in the car again. It is the 15th of March and I'm again waiting to pick up Orla. This time I've managed to park very strategically under a searchlight so at least I'm visible. But I've come on to say that I have now finished The Ninth Girl. I've just finished this today. This was good. This felt like a solid, does what it says on the tin. It's a murder mystery, creepy, bit disturbing, and I feel like the more I got into it, the more I enjoyed it. So it was a bit slow for me to start with, but once I got to the halfway mark, I think I was halfway through it yesterday and then I finished it today. So I really wanted to find out what happened, and it's quite fast paced. What I enjoyed most about this book was the investigation into the disappearance of a girl called Penny Gray. She turned out to be a really interesting character, and the way lots of different people in her life had different perceptions of her, and how she seemed to be really struggling to find her own sense of identity and acceptance in the world. Really moving and interesting, and I think it was Penny's story that got me hooked and wanted me to see this through, and it did have a good, satisfying ending, and I'm glad I read it. So I chose my next book to read before I left the house. And I've decided that although so far this year I have been reading borrowed books, then rereading books, and then reading new books on my TBR, so having this rotation of 3 different sources of reading, I'm actually now going to focus a bit more on reading my TBR, because my TBR was 0 on Christmas Day, and now I think I'm back up to about 13, 14 books waiting on there, and it keeps growing. So I'm going to focus a bit more on taking books off my TBR, and instead I'm going to aim for reading 1 reread and 1 borrowed book from either the library or friends per month until my TBR is back down to 0. So for now I'm sticking with books on my TBR, and that means my next book is this one, which is just so fun. It's called Bizarre Books. It's a non-fiction book. It says the definitive directory of dottiness. So this is a book about the strangest books that have ever been published, including an American novel which does not contain a single letter E, a treatise on boldness in which every word begins with a C, and a guide to 141 ways of spelling Birmingham. Hey, I've made it outside. Today's Tuesday the 19th of March. Book update first. I stopped reading Bizarre Books because it just turned out not to be very funny. I read about 30 pages of it, and it was mostly lists of book titles that had puns in the author names, and I just didn't find it that fun, so I gave up on that, which was a shame. And then I started reading instead The Lions of the North by Edward Marston. This is part of the Doomsday book series. Medieval detectives going around solving crimes whilst investigating irregularities in the Doomsday book. This one is set in York, where there's a lord living in the castle, and he has 2 lions, and as the novel starts, the 2 lions have eaten an intruder into the castle, and our investigators have to find out why this young man was breaking into the castle and uncover some of the secrets. I really enjoy this murder mystery detective series. For one, I think the covers are just beautiful. And they're readable, they're enjoyable. You could read them as standalone, but I am working my way through the series, and this is book 4, and I'm really enjoying it. So I came out here to tell you about that, and I'm also, whilst I'm out here, just sorting my plants out. I've had some sweet peas growing, and these are doing quite well. I have another tray of them. I've brought them outside to get them used to the wind, but I have a couple of not so good success stories with my plant growing. These look really awful, so I think they've withered a bit in the windowsill, and also I think a cat has sat on them. But these little green guys here are trying to be straw flowers, which are some of my favourite flowers to grow from seed, but they're not doing very well in the seed tray. So I have got some pots, and I filled them up with dirt, and they're going to take the sweet peas place in the kitchen windowsill, because that seems to be a good growing place. I'm going to hopefully try and get them growing I'll be really sad if I don't, because I won't have any straw flowers this year and I'll be really sad about that. Yeah, so I'm going to see if I can transfer some of these seedlings into these big pots, give them a good drink, and hopefully they'll be okay. Oh, I should also say whilst I'm doing this, my other book date is I'm still listening to Atonement, and I feel like I hate listening to it now. So this book seems to take itself very seriously, but yet a lot of the things that the characters are stressing about are very tedious right up until we get to the point of the proper attack. And even though we've got, I'm kind of giving away some spoilers now here, but there is quite a serious assault that's carried out on a young girl, but that incident is already being like brushed aside to focus on the trauma of a young witness identifying the wrong guy as being the attacker. And I don't know, there's something about this book that's not sitting right with me. In fact, earlier on in the book it talks about the young girl being like just half an hour away from committing her crime, and if only she turned like right instead of left, then she never would have committed it. It would have been like it never would have happened. In fact, nothing would have happened. And that line made me cringe, because even if Bryony, the young witness, didn't witness the crime and didn't identify the wrong person, the other young girl, Lola, would still have been attacked. So to say like if only Bryony had gone the wrong way then there would have been no trouble just seems, I don't know, just awful, an awful thing to say. The same distress in the writing about the attack is equal to the same distress they've put on to two young boys not having spare socks to wear. Like, everything has been a huge drama so far in this story, so much so that when the actual drama occurs, it just feels a bit cheap somehow. So I can't say I'm enjoying this book, even though it's very well written, and I guess I'm only seeing it out so I can complain about it. I'm going to talk about books real soon, but first I just want to show you that the straw flower seedlings are a lot happier in the big pots. Apart from that one struggled a bit. But most of them have at least 2 seedlings that seem to be growing really well, and they're a lot happier in the pots. I finished The Lions of the North, and I love this series so much. It's just a great escapist, cozy crime, murder, investigations. It just does what I always wanted it to. It's a good mystery. I really love these characters. I love the setting. I like learning just a little bit more about history, and it's just a beautiful, happy series, and I'm always looking forward to reading the next one, so that was fantastic. Then last month I'd acquired a couple of 70s horror stories, and I was really looking forward to reading them. And the results have been a bit mixed. So I started with The Fury, which is about teenagers with psychic powers and an evil government agency trying to capture them and use them as weapons. And the first chapter of this was so good. It was written so beautifully about one of these teenagers, the girl Gillian, and a day where like her psychic powers take over, and I thought this was going to be amazing, but I got about 50 pages in and decided it wasn't for me. It just kept introducing more and more and more new characters and new settings, and the original part that had hooked my interest just was like kind of lost in the mix. Then the other book I read was Lupe, which I finished. I'm still not sure if I'd really recommended it. This is about a woman who gets accused of murdering her husband's mistress via witchcraft. So some of this is courtroom drama as the trial progresses, and some of it is more like horror, as this woman seems to have unwittingly acquired the services of a demon and can't shake him off. And I feel like this book didn't quite know what it wanted to be, either the crime drama or the demon possession thing. And the more I read, the sillier it got. So yeah, kind of 2 books that I weren't that into. And then I'm finishing the month by reading Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. I know so many people have been raving about this book, so I was interested to see what it's like. About 100 pages in, so this book is going to see me into April. I'll say so far it is beautifully written and really engaging, and it pulls you in to the storyline, which is about a young boy growing up in like Virginia, in a very poor community, lots of poverty, lots of crime around him, and obviously quite a sad upbringing is going on. I will say I have like a little warning bell in me that I read the Poisonwood Bible last year, and I'm a bit worried that this is going to go the same way, in that that book started off with characters in a tough situation, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse, and the tragedy piles on tragedy, and anytime you think, oh, but maybe if this happens then things will get a bit better, it inevitably doesn't, and it gets worse. And she kind of tries to make the point of like, sometimes societal problems are so... That's Comet pitching in. Are you okay, baby? I don't know if you can see him, he's on the piano stool back there. I think she tries to make the point in her work that sometimes societal problems are so complex and layered and overwhelming that individuals can't just pull themselves up by their bootstraps, which is a really valid and worthy point to make, but it does mean that the reading experience can be quite depressing. So far it's so sad, guys. This book is really, really sad, and I'm a bit worried that it's gonna keep on being sad. So yeah, I might need to like take breaks in this and read other stuff too, because I think this is gonna get a lot worse than it already is. And already, like, his stepfather has physically abused him, his mother has died of an overdose, he's in a foster care which is treating him like slave labour. I'm pretty sure I'm not at the worst part of the book yet. So it's beautiful, it's good. If you love tragic life stories, I bet you'll love this. I think I might need to pace my reading in this and take breaks because it's so very sad, and I'm not great with sad books. Oh, I finished Atonement too. I finished Atonement. That also wasn't great, to be honest. Yeah. I found Atonement really frustrating and tedious, and the ending only made it more tedious and annoying, and I kind of resent the time I spent with the main narrator of the book. So yeah, I think March has been a bit hit and miss with my reading. So I'm hoping April has a few more hits in store. I am glad though that I've reduced the amount of books on my TBR, and for April I'm going to stick with doing one reread, one borrowed book, and then trying to clear off my TBR as much as possible. And I think there's a good chance that by the end of April my TBR will be back down to 0, which is where I would like to keep it. So yeah, that's it from me. Tomorrow Rachel's reading wrap up will come out, so keep an eye out for that. And then next Friday, I believe it's our review of The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. So that's next week's video. If you've enjoyed this video, please do consider liking and subscribing. You might also want to follow us on Instagram, and the link to that is in the description below. Thanks so much for being here. I hope you've had a lovely reading month and a fantastic Easter, and we'll see you next time. Bye. So yeah, I really didn't like Atonement. Oh dear.